Hello there, you're listening to the Box Office Show. I'm Ryan Hill.
And I'm Dylan Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about the box office numbers from last weekend and our box office predictions for this upcoming weekend.
We will also be counting down our lists for our top 10 favorite movies of 2024.
Start with some news. We had some trailers come out for the Super Bowl week. Fantastic Four, First Steps. We got our first teaser trailer. We got to see all of the members of the Fantastic Four in their superhero glory.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, are you enticed by it? Are you excited by it? Do you think it looks like a good adaptation?
I am not over the moon about it. I do think the whole 60s aesthetic is very cool, very fun, and it's a departure from the previous ones. So that part I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's nothing about it that really stuck out to me as
To me, it feels bland.
Crazy worthwhile. Yeah.
It feels boring.
Didn't stand out very much.
Yeah. What about, alternatively, Jurassic World Rebirth?
As you know, I'm very sad that they went ahead and did a new trilogy right away, especially because we had a perfect trilogy ready for them. If they just would have called up and listened to that episode
Jurassic
of the podcast.
Universe, baby.
Jurassic Universe. It should be done. And
so
this one, it also felt kind of bland. I think it's kind of cool that we're going to see some new creatures, but at what point do we start going over the top and creating like too many hybrids and they just become alien creatures rather than just dinosaurs? So that part worries me a bit. Also, I think Scarlett Johansson is always great in everything, but I'm not seeing anything stellar right now. Seems like this is a paycheck gig. Jonathan Bailey, just had his big moment in Wicked. I'm not convinced. I'm not yet convinced. So we will have to see if he can pull off that part.
I felt like, I think it looks good. I mean, it's Gareth Edwards, right?
Yeah.
So I think it looks good. I mean, he's very good at making very good looking films, obviously.
For sure.
But the dialogue, I think, was weaker. I think the story seemed a little unoriginal, and I wasn't enticed by the dinosaurs as much as I usually am. So overall, other than the fact that I think it's like one of the better CGI outings for the Jurassic universe, I think other than that, I'm not as enticed as I was hoping to be. It just feels like a rebranding of Jurassic Park 3.
It does. Yeah. And so I don't know why they felt the need to like go right.
Or I guess The Lost World 2 is the same kind of plot of like, we have to go back to the island to get this thing. I guess a lot of them are that exact plot. We have to go back to the island because they're the thing we need.
We have to go back. We have to go back. Yeah.
You always have to go back.
Yeah. But I just wish they
and then there's always a character that says, nobody's crazy enough to do what we're doing. Even though there's 4 other movies where they have the exact same plot, where they go back to those exact islands and do exactly what they're doing.
I know. Like many people actually will do it. Plenty.
This is actually a very regular thing, and they should probably put a stop to this.
Yeah.
People keep dying.
But he looks cool, Mahershala, in this.
Oh, he always does. I love Mahershala Ali.
So he'll be awesome.
He's perfect.
And ScarJo,
he's incredible.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm glad. Like when she got cast in it, I was happy for that. But you're right. It feels very like bland and boilerplate, and not that.
Had they shot the
Jurassic Worlds were very revolutionary, but the original Jurassic World we both like a lot. Like I think they did that approach nicely. This one doesn't have the, it's a theme park to it, so I think that loses a bit of the magic there. So we'll see how they're able to balance it out. But yeah, I'll definitely see it. We'll probably maybe do an episode on it, but I'm not expecting, a masterpiece to come out of it.
Yeah, I do still think, even though it seems very, very unoriginal, I still think I will enjoy it more than the last 2 that came out. I think it'll be a step up from what it has usually been in terms of quality, even though I still think my ultimate takeaway is going to be, I just don't think they did anything new with it, which is unfortunate. I still think I will find a way to find it entertaining. Thoughts on the xenomorph dinosaur?
I know I saw that. Again, it's cool. It looks cool. I'm sure it'll be
I'm a
frightening.
fan of when they go balls
Whoever's
to the
chasing
wall
it.
with it. I think they should just go for it. We pitched the trilogy where they send dinosaurs into space, and part of
I
yours
know.
is putting the Velociraptor in a spacesuit.
I mean, I said this of like, oh, they're gonna go crazy with the aliens and everything. Like our ideas, mine especially, definitely had like mutant, like dinosaur human hybrids in there. So I can't
Yeah,
really talk that they're going in that direction, like
I
straight
think
up.
balls to the wall is the way to go because at least it's original. You
Yeah,
know, you can only do returning to the island and seeing regular dinosaurs so many times. At a certain point, you have to change the dinosaurs, and you have to change the setting, and you have to change like the goal of the characters
yeah, I suppose
to
so.
make it a
That's
good
why
movie.
they need to take a page out of Pastor's book. You've
Hmm.
seen that one?
I haven't seen Velocipaster. No, I do
I
know the
haven't
plot
either,
though.
but that's what we need to see. They just need. There's so many of those like B movies, like straight to DVD, I guess, not just straight to streaming stuff, where it's just those absurd combinations like
Hmm.
Velocipaster, stuff like that. We just need to
Thanksgiving.
start putting those in the Jurassic World movies. Like enough is enough. It's getting there anyway. Let's go for it.
Yeah,
Make Velocipaster mainstream.
I agree.
Any other Super Bowl trailers? Again, they're all dropping like the week ahead of
Yeah,
the
none of
Super
them
Bowl.
really stood out to me. The one where Seal was an actual seal was a little disturbing.
I did see that like
I didn't like
very
that.
briefly. I was walking by the TV and I was like, this is why did they do this?
Yeah,
Why
I
do you
wasn't
agree
a
to
fan of
this?
that one.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey showed up 3 different times, which was
He
fun to
did.
see,
And
and
again,
Woody Harrelson.
it's been like 2 weeks in advance. They've been showing that one. Like we've
Yeah,
been getting teasers of all his Super Bowl spots.
yeah.
So
Overall, not like taken away by the trailers or by the commercials this year.
mhm.
Nothing really blowing my mind.
Jeremy Strong and Coffee.
I guess the Duncan ones are always kind of fun, but at a certain point, it's like you're just packing it full of celebrities and just making coffee jokes for
Hmm.
2 minutes. You're just making like a Duncan short film. It just
Look,
feels, I don't know.
it
When I was a kid, they used to
keeps.
feel fun, and now it just feels like they're getting a paycheck.
I guess so, but it keeps Ben Affleck happy. I think those are
Yeah, I
the
mean, the man loves Duncan.
one thing he enjoys.
The only person that I think is enjoying being there and being present for those commercials is Ben Affleck because it is well known that the man consumes Duncan quite a bit. Like he's a fan of their brand,
Hmm.
which I can respect. I can respect anybody who advertises something that they're actually like using and enjoy quite frequently, and he very clearly frequently enjoys Dunkin' Donuts.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, now to shift gears here and talk about some news, some box office news, because there's been some history over this past week. It got solidified over the weekend, the Super Bowl weekend, and all eyes in America were on the football game, but over in China, it was on one film in particular, Nisha 2, a sequel to a 2019 animated film about the mythological deity, I guess, Nisha. Um, this film is the first film to break $1 billion dollars in a single market.
Crazy,
And it did so in 11 days, which is
insane.
just as fast as Infinity War hit $1 billion, dollars, which is crazy, only beaten out by Endgame, which did it in one weekend. So that's absurd. Again, Star Wars The Force Awakens was the closest. It had made 900 million in the US, but it has since been dethroned. Here's the crazy part though. It ain't slowing down. It is going to dethrone Inside Out 2 as the highest grossing animated film of all time from China alone.
Insane.
This film could hit $2 billion. Dollars.
Dude, if it's that popular, I might go see it. I got to see the first one, I guess, but it's going to come to America, I think, this weekend, the weekend after, limited release at least. I think I might, I might try and stream the first one if I can find it anywhere, and then go see the second one.
Yeah, I don't know where that first one would be, but I'm also curious to check it out
I've
because
never seen like an animated Chinese film before,
this is
only live action
bonkers.
ones.
Like it is insane. So
That's
if
a
they
crazy
make
amount. Yeah,
a third
every
one,
child in China of this generation has seen Neja. Every single
mm,
Chinese child went and saw this movie.
exactly. Um, so yeah, if they make a third one, like in China alone, like it could be threatening $2.5 billion, something like that. Like this is wild. So a true phenomenon going on over there. Uh, we'll have to see. Like again, Avatar is coming out this year. It may not be the number one film
Yeah,
at the end of
that is crazy.
2025. So we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on this story as it develops. In the Spring Festival for the Chinese New Year ends soon, but
Mm,
it seems like this is going to keep on making history, taking
yeah.
in like 50, 60, 70 million per day. Like just
Mm,
weekdays, it's just getting like crazy amounts. So this will be a very fun movie to track.
mm. Let's do our box office breakdown for January 31st to February 2nd. In first place, the animated film in America that just won't quit, Dogman, with 36 million. That is a very, very strong opening.
Yeah, again, did not expect that
For
at all.
January, it's a very, very strong opening. For the Dogman movie,
Yeah,
very, very good.
that's huge. In second place, also debuting this weekend, Companion with 9.3 million.
I was hoping that one would cross into double digits, but unfortunately, it just did not. Mufasa the Lion King, the lion that had legs for days, 6.3 million.
One of them days, 5.8 million.
Flight Risk, 5.4 million.
Sonic the Hedgehog 3, 3.2 million.
Moana 2, 2.8 million, now crossing the 450 million mark domestically.
Very solid. A Complete Unknown, 2.6 million.
On
It
our
made a
script, it says,
whopping
on our script, it says
66
a
million.
complete unknown says 66 million, which is a crazy high number. It didn't even make that in his debut. The Brutalist, 1.8 million.
And Den of Thieves with 1.5 million to round out the top 10.
Indeed. I would like to say before we move on, when I referred to Mufasa the Lion King as the lion with the legs for days, I meant the legs of it lasting very long in the box office, not that the lion has very attractively long legs. The box office prediction for February 7th to February 9th, we
So hold
have
on.
the
Are
new.
you saying Mufasa doesn't have nice legs? You don't like Mufasa's
I haven't
legs?
seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I haven't seen the movie. I
So you
can't comment.
can't comment on that yet.
When I
Well,
see the movie, I will let you know whether Mufasa has legs
please
for
do
days.
report
But
back.
I haven't seen the movie. Love Hurts, the new Ki Kwan movie, martial arts, action, romance, comedy, sort of popcorn flick, is coming out. Ryan, do you think it will sink or float?
I think it will sink.
Yeah,
I'm saying 5 mil.
yeah, that sounds about right. Which is very sad because everybody loves Ki Kwan, and Ariana DeBose.
Hmm. But just need a better film. Again, the trailers did not sell me at all.
Yeah, I
So
just don't really understand the premise. I guess he's a hitman that's in hiding that has to come out of hiding for some reason. It just feels very generic, I guess.
yeah,
And
for
the
sure.
only thing special about it is that it's Ki Kwan doing martial arts. And I think he deserves a better plot to go along with his martial arts. Because Everything Overall All at Once very much showcases martial arts in a great way and was a fantastic plot. And guess what? He won an Oscar for it. You know? I think the man deserves a better film.
100%. And then we have Heart Eyes, a horror slasher film, also related to the Valentine's Day holiday. What do you think this one will get?
Pff, I'm giving it like 8, maybe.
Yeah, I'll probably put it around there. I think Dogman is going to take it.
Yeah,
It's
it
going to
is.
be number one yet again. So,
Dogman will reign supreme.
mhm. All right. Now let's talk about 2024 and
It's
our
about
favorite
time.
movies from that year. Dylan, looking back on 2024, what do you think?
Honestly, it's an interesting year looking at all the movies. There were not a lot of big names dropping movies this year because a ton of big names dropped in 2023 and a ton of big names are dropping in 2025, which we'll talk about in a later episode. We talk about the most anticipated films. And
Hmm.
so, because at this point, it used to be a little more staggered. Some people would drop one year, other people would drop another year. And it feels like because nowadays it kind of takes 2 years to really put out a movie from start to finish, as opposed to maybe 1 or 1.5. The time span feels like it's getting wider, especially because people who are bigger named are taking their time and getting bigger budgets to make these films, especially for streaming services. it seems like there just happened to be a lineup in a gap where there's not a lot. If you look at the names for people who are nominated for Best Director, it's a lot of first time nominations, especially with Best Director, Best Screenplay, all the actors. Uh, a lot of smaller names, a lot of more independent films, and the big names that did drop were a little disappointing. I think there were a lot of movies that were disappointing. I think there were a lot of surprises in there for what movies that I thought I wouldn't like as much that I would think that I would have liked. And I think it should be known that we were going to record this episode 2-ish, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I asked you to postpone it because this year, because it is a lot of smaller filmmakers, a lot of more independent films, a lot of those big films of the year that would probably make our top 10 were released very, very late, and so they weren't in theaters until the end of January, beginning of February. And I really, really, really wanted them to be in my list. I didn't want them to be a blind spot because I knew there were a couple in there that would crack the top 10. And I appreciate you for pushing back the episode, even though I know you didn't want to. And I want it to be known that had we recorded it 3 weeks ago, my list would be completely different. I've added at least 4 new titles into my top 10 list, if not 5. I haven't checked, that have taken new spots in my top 10 because we pushed it back. So thank you, Ryan.
No problem. It was definitely a weird year. I don't know why so many of the big films you couldn't see until January and late January at that. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully going forward, they will fix that. I think it's also like they just need to move the Academy Awards up. Like the season is too long nowadays.
Yeah.
It used to be February. Like this would be Oscars weekend. And
Yeah.
now it's not. I think it's ridiculous. They need to move that up so that the movies will be able to come out
I agree.
earlier as well. So that again, the 2024 films come out in 2024 for most people.
Yeah.
Like that would be nice.
I think the
So
reason is because they want to stretch out the award season as much as possible. They want the Oscars to happen very much after the other award season so people have the opportunity to vote. And it's turning it into more of a performative thing to where you're voting based on how they campaign in the award season as opposed to how they actually perform in the movie. And I'm
mhm.
not a big fan of that. Like if you look, Demi Moore is tracking really, really well for becoming a Best Actress contender, and she wasn't in that same position before the Golden Globes. And so her speech definitely did a lot to carry that weight, even though her performance of The Substance is fantastic. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it in this episode. I think she absolutely deserved that Oscar nomination. I think she deserved the Golden Globe win. I just feel like had the voting body been voting for the Oscars closer to the Golden Globes or a little bit before the Golden Globes, perhaps she might not have gotten that nomination. And as controversies have come to light and other award shows give their wins out, it becomes more and more likely that other people, like with the more time that you have to see all these people out there doing press, it changes people's perspectives and it changes how the voting goes. And it
Mhm.
turns it into like a political campaign as opposed to voting based on preference of performance. And
Correct.
again, at the end of the day, awards for art are kind of essentially meaningless. I mean, I'm sure for the people who do win, it's a thrilling thing to win. It's a great career boost. It's definitely like a highlight for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, it is arbitrary. People are voting for many, many reasons other than whether or not they liked your art, even if they did like your art. And I think we all know that anybody that is nominated at the Oscars has obviously put in a lot of work. And anybody, even if you don't get nominated at the Oscars, doesn't mean you didn't put in a lot of work. And art is very much subjective. I think Ryan, you and I both agree that we just enjoy watching the Oscars because it's kind of fun to track, to see how the movies are doing, to see which movies get recognition and which are more popular when you think they wouldn't be. Like seeing Everything Ever All at Once kind of take the Oscars by storm was very, very entertaining. Same with Parasite.
Mhm.
And so even though we know it's like paradoxical almost, even though we know that these awards are arbitrary and that art is subjective, it's still very much entertaining to watch these award shows and see actors and filmmakers that we care about get like very direct recognition for their work.
Yeah, absolutely. But what you're saying is the true meaningful recognition comes from our list, the top
Yes.
10 films of 2024 from the box
Our
office show,
appreciation, because it
which
is
is the
based on the art
only
and the art alone.
exactly. Um, so yeah, let's talk about our films. Do you want to kick off with the blind spots?
Yes.
Okay,
There
so what
were
haven't you seen yet?
So I've gotten pretty good at keeping track of what movies I need to see. I'm using the watch list thing on Letterboxd only to keep track of movies that are new releases that I need to see, as opposed to just a watch list of things I want to watch in general. So it's easy to keep track of what I missed and what I was able to see. I missed a couple of bigger names like Love Lies Bleeding and Drive Away Dolls and Twisters. I wasn't able to see any of those.
You still didn't see
I didn't
Twisters?
see Twisters.
No.
I watched the original Twister so that I could go to the theaters and watch Twisters, and I didn't go. I didn't even go on RPX. Very, very sad.
Tragic.
Or 40X, I mean. I wasn't able to see Blitz, even though I have an Apple TV subscription right now. I've just been watching Ted Lasso. I was not able to see Vermilio, the Italian film, which I really, really wanted to see, and that I think would have made my top 10, I feel like, but I couldn't find it anywhere, even though we pushed it late. It was impossible to find. Had it been findable, I would have watched it. I was dedicated to seeing it, and I couldn't see it. I did not see The Last Showgirl. I did not see Maria with Angelina Jolie, even though I feel like I would have liked that because I like his other films, or I like Spencer at least. I did not see Bird, even though I've had people recommend it, and I've heard good things about it. And Barry Keoghan. I did not get to see Hard Truths, the Mike Lee film. I
Mm-hmm.
love Mike Lee, and I love the main actress in it. So I feel like I would have liked it, and it was playing in theaters in Winter Park, and I wanted to go see it. But that was one of the weeks where we had pushed things back, and I had to see like 5 films that week, and I was also working, and there's just too many things going on at once, and I couldn't quite squeeze it in. And then the biggest gap, I think, all year in my watching experience, the one that is probably the most notable in this sort of list, I did not get a chance to see Luca Guadagnino's Queer.
Mm.
Very unfortunate. I really wanted to see it. I love Daniel Craig. I think I would have really liked him in this film. I've heard very good things. It did not quite become a thing that I could see.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately.
There's uh pretty much your entire list would fit with mine. There's like a couple films that I saw, Blitz, Bird, from that list, but a lot of them that you mentioned, I was also not able to catch for one reason or another. Um, but yeah, I was just prioritizing other things that I thought would have had a greater chance of making the list. Um, the biggest blind spot for me, which is sad because I'm sure it probably would have made the list, but that rental price was just, I was like, come on now. You hide away this film from theaters the entire year and then slap that thing for $20 for a rental. Crazy, crazy. And it's not going to go down too, even as it gets closer to the Oscars. So I'll need to see if I
Mhm.
can even see it before then in the next month. But Sing Sing
Bummer.
will not be featuring on my list because I did not watch it.
Oh, that's so sad.
So,
It was in
and
theaters
I
for
love
like a
Coleman
week.
Domingo. I know, but only for like like a weekend or something. Like I
Yeah.
was
It was
checking
like
it
a week. Yeah.
and it was not able to play during a time that I could go see it.
Absolutely
So
tragic.
that was unfortunate. And then there's a film that I'm know for a fact is on your list. So I'll just wait and we'll talk about it then. But I also was not able to catch that in time.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, those are the only major blind spots. I think everything else that I like was hoping to see, I was able to get around to
Hmm.
with a few exceptions there. Again, I don't really know that Queer would have made my list based
Yeah.
on some of the things I've heard, but yeah, I did miss that one.
Hmm.
And Hard Truth, I definitely would have liked to see that,
Right.
but
Missed that one. Yeah.
alas.
I did
The
see
other
a lot more
wrinkle,
films this year. I will say. I saw,
you
according to
saw plenty of
Letterboxd,
films.
I saw 30 new films last year, or I mean 2023, and then in 2024 I saw 51 new films. So
Nice.
I definitely was going to the theater a lot more, and I was definitely hunting down streaming films quite a bit more. And I was just so dedicated to having the most accurate list I possibly could. And I also felt like I just didn't watch a lot of movies in 2023, and I wanted to make up for it, especially because I knew you were going to be so busy over the summer with your film. I wanted to show up and show out for the year end cap and try and see as many of the big movies as I could so that if you were able to see them, we could at least talk about them. Or I didn't want to be the one slacking, because you
Hmm.
had a reason to slack and I didn't.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well,
For me,
yeah.
it would have just been laziness had I not seen these movies.
So we got a good selection there. I don't know how many new like 2024 films I saw, but It was a fair amount. Like it was still pretty good considering there was a big blackout in the middle of summer. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, the other wrinkle here with the list this year, I think more than others, is just some films are not accessible until 2024, even though technically they came out in 2023.
Yeah.
Foreign films, this is the
Mhm.
case for a lot of those.
This is true.
So there's some on my list that I'm sure are in down as in Wikipedia as like 2023, but they were
I
not
have the
available
same
until
problem.
2024. So
Yeah.
we're going to call
I
it
I think
2024.
if it was impossible for me to see it in America, streaming or in theaters, in any way, like not even limited release anywhere in America, not even LA or New York, until 2024, I counted it as 2024. Because there are plenty of movies that, like, yeah, it showed at like maybe two or three film
Hmm.
festivals in America in 2023, but there's no way it had no kind of release actually until 2024. I count that as a 2024 film. And
Exactly.
similarly, like Wallace and Gromit came out the fourth day of January of this year, uh, and it's competing at this Oscars, for the 2024 period, even though it came out to wide audiences in 2025. I'm counting that one as 2025 because there was no way for me to be able to see that until 2025.
Gotcha. Okay. So there we go. Let's hop into our honorable mentions. I've got a few that I'll throw out there.
Mhm.
Inside Out 2, I think
Good.
was very
Yeah.
much the same formula as Inside Out, but
Yeah.
they just changed the ingredients in the right way and it still packed a lot of the punch
Still
of
enjoyable.
that first one. So it was very enjoyable. Monkey Man, which
Oh,
I
that's what
did
I'm
not see
missing.
in
Yeah.
theaters, but I saw it later down the line on streaming, and I wish I would have been able to see it in theaters because it was a blast.
Mhm.
In Dev Patel and his debut as a director, I thought he did fantastic. Again, very much inspired by the John Wick style of action that we've gotten since the 2010s. Not as intricate and complex as far as the choreography for that, but it still has a lot of great set pieces.
Mhm.
So I was a big fan of that one. Um, it's What's Inside was a film that
Hmm.
I heard about at festivals, and then Netflix picked it up, and then I watched it, and it's a very fun film. The premise is basically a bunch of college friends that haven't seen each other for years get together when someone's about to get married. Someone brings this suitcase that has a gadget in there that lets you swap bodies with each other. So they
Oh.
play a party game where they all swap bodies and they have to try and guess who is in whose body. And so
Oh.
hijinks ensue, drama ensues. It's very fun. Like there's a lot of
That seems
clever
like a good
comedic bits
plot.
that they do with that premise, but then they also get to play around with some of the like more meaty thematic ideas that
Mhm.
would come from it of, walking a mile in someone else's shoe, the envy that comes with that, the insecurity about being in your own skin, stuff like that. So I think that is a lovely little film. It's one of those that would have done really well in theaters. Like we had talked about in our Baby Girl episode, for instance, like that's one that people are just going to ooh and ah and like be very vocal with the film.
Mhm.
This is a film that would have been perfect for that. Like the twists and turns that happen there, just very, very good. So
Nice.
that one was a fun film. I'm throwing Alien Romulus and Furiosa in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
I think as far as like just straight sci-fi and straight action, they were the best of the bunch for their respective genres. So yeah, very, very delighted by both of those films. And let's see, The Beast. It's a French film. Very interesting premise. It's like in
Leah
the near
Seydoux, right?
future. Say what?
Leah Seydoux?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
She stars in it, and George McKay, who's in 1917. He is the counterpart here. Leia Seydoux is in the near future. She's like going through this program to get purified so that she can work at some sort of job. She's like too emotional, so that she needs like bring her emotions down. And the way they do that is this procedure where they go into your past lives and eliminate the trauma from your past
Mhm.
lives. And
Okay.
so we get to go back in time and see her past self in like 1900s and then in 2010s. And it's very compelling. Again, it's like a love story with her and George McKay in each of these timelines. The first one is her, them both in Paris, and she's married, and he's in love with her and they can't be together because the social norms and everything there. Um, so it's like a doomed romance for that. And then with the 2010s, it's a doomed romance in a very different way. um, she's like an aspiring actress model, and he is an incel serial killer in the making.
Oh no.
Very much in the mode of that like real life case of the guy that tried to shoot up the sorority because no girls liked him. He thought so.
Oh geez.
Very just
Romantic.
yeah, very romantic, but very pleasant. No, so it's a very compelling premise and very wacky, very weird,
Mm.
very compelling though. So I would give that a big recommendation.
Mm.
And then finally, Rebel Ridge. Did you see this?
Oh, okay.
The
I heard
action
about this.
thriller on Netflix.
Mm.
Um, Aaron Pierre,
Yeah.
who is going to be Jon Stewart in the Green Lantern
Mhm.
show. I remember when the casting dropped for that, I was like, I'm not familiar with his work, so I have no idea if he's going to be solid or not. We're in good hands.
All
He's going
right.
to kill it in that role because he is such a commanding presence. Like the dude is huge, he's built,
Nice.
but he's also again he's got just that charisma where like you are locked on to him whenever he's doing anything. Like the action stuff was great, but
Mhm.
also the like very justified rage that he had through this film because this is one of those films that just gets you pissed off because he's
Mhm.
getting wronged left and right by this corrupt like sheriff's office, a small town that's using civil forfeiture, like just taking money
Mhm.
that somebody had on their person, and then it's like more expensive to try and sue them to get it back. So the county just ends up with it most of the time. So he's desperately trying to like get that money back in order to bail out his brother that is about to go to jail and possibly get killed because he's an informant. So it's like that dynamic there of like he needs this money, and they're not giving it back to him for BS reasons, and so he has to just navigate that system. It is fantastic. I think the like lead actress in it
Mhm.
wasn't the best for him to play off of, but he himself was great. And a lot of the other like the cop characters in it
Yeah.
very good as well
Okay.
because just their despicable corruption was very well done because I
All
was
right.
mad a lot of times
All right.
watching
All
the film.
right. All
So
right. I can dig
those
it.
are my honorable mentions, all worthwhile films, but they just didn't make the list. So what about you,
Nice.
Dylan? Any honorable mentions?
I do. I do. I'm going to mention three really quick that we already did episodes on that you should go back and listen to those episodes. I won't spend too much time on them. The Substance, Kinds of Kindness, and Dune Part 2 are three films that didn't make my top 10, but
The Substance didn't make your top 10?
make my top 10.
That's crazy.
Very close to it, but you should go back and you should check it out. If you have you
What
check
did you give
the
that? Didn't you give that 5 stars?
So this is one of the things that I mentioned to you earlier. There were films that I gave 5 stars in the episodes that we did that I think, looking back, having seen them a few times now and thought about it more, I think I was too generous this past year with my 5 out of 5s. I think
Mm,
overall I've given 4 films 5 out of 5s this year, which will be my top four, and then the rest were lower than that. I think The Substance dropped down to a 4.5, which is still very high. And then I think Kinds of Kindness, no, that's also a 4.5, and Dune Part Two is a 4.5 or a 4. But Conclave was another one that I think I gave 5 out of 5 that dropped down to a 4. I think maybe I gave it a 4.5. I don't remember, but it was my favorite film of the year at that point when I had seen it,
mhm.
and it dropped down quite a bit. It's not even going to be an honorable mention. I do really enjoy it, but
It's off the list and
it's
off
off.
the honorable
It's not
mentions.
an
That's
honorable mention. It's not a
crazy.
5 out of 5. I just think thinking about it more, like it is very entertaining when you're watching it, and it's shot incredibly well. And I think it is deserved of a Best Picture nomination and a Best Director nomination and whatnot. But I just I think there are elements of the story that I think are lacking in terms of like a little bit of depth. As much as I wanted to, it just very much is a political thriller, which is
Mhm.
entertaining in itself. I just wish there was more to some of the characters. But honorable mentions, of course, Kinds of Kindness, Substance, Dune Part 2. They're all fantastic. Go listen to our episodes on them. Another honorable mention that's close to the top 10 is Flow. I really wanted this to be in the top 10. I watched it last week or the week before. I really, really loved it. I think the effort that was put into the animation is incredible. I think the team behind it did a fantastic job. It looks so beautiful, and the story is so fantastic for something that is completely silent. It's just animals, no dialogue. and I think I fall in love with those animals as I'm watching it. It's just about a cat and a bunch of forest animals that are trying to survive after a flood destroys the forest. And I think watching them all interact on the little boat that they're on is just so delightful and so entertaining. And I think towards the end, when it becomes a little more ethereal, I won't say anymore. The animation is just breathtaking and so captivating, especially for having it all done completely in Blender. I think is incredibly impressive and gorgeous.
Mhm.
I will say A Different Man gets an honorable mention. It's a little lower on my list than some other movies that aren't going to make the honorable mention list. I just want to say it because it was entertaining and bold. I think it was shot incredibly well, and I think if Sebastian Stan, having seen that and The Apprentice, if he deserved an Oscar nomination, it should have been for A Different Man. I
Mhm.
think he's fantastic in this movie. I think his dedication to playing that crazy, crazy character, and then the amount of insanity that it goes to in the second half is fantastic. Were you able to see this one?
I was, yeah, it's not on my list, not on my honorable mentions.
Mm,
I will say some of the lengths that it goes to towards the end brought it
very
down for me.
entertaining.
I was not
I
as
think it's
plugged
so
in for that.
entertaining. I
But
disagree with you.
the first half, I was very much in love with. So,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely a solid film. Yeah.
I think the bold choices that they make toward the end make it more unique and more original. And I think uh, watching Sebastian Stan in those like extreme moments is very entertaining to me. And I think he sells it really well for somebody that is in such a bewildering position. And I think the extreme lengths they go to sort of get that point across that it is about who you are on the inside and on the outside, I think it sticks that landing pretty well, for me at least.
Hmm.
All We Imagine Is Light gets an honorable mention. I was able to see this film. I'm devastated that India did not choose it to represent India at the Oscars because I think it is a very gorgeous film. I was really hoping that I would like it more,
Mm.
but I think the story is it's two Indian women who are roommates, and it's their two separate stories kind of interweaving with each other. One of them is estranged from her husband who lives long distance, and she's struggling with the fact that her marriage was arranged and that she feels like a stranger to her husband now, and she just wants to find love. And then her roommate, who is a younger woman, is having a secret relationship with a Muslim Indian man, and she's Hindu, and so their relationship is very much a secret. And I just think the storyline with the younger roommate is so delightful and so like romantic and entertaining and silly that
Hmm.
it like captivates me and fills me with such like love and joy. And I wish the storyline with the older roommate who was estranged from her husband, as sad as it is and as like captivating as that is as well, I wish it was a little more entertaining. At times it did feel a little lackluster, but I think overall a film that is shot that well and tells such a like beautiful story of these two women sort of coming together and like sharing that experience of like being a woman in India, where you're expected to care for your husband and it's typically an arranged marriage, especially in like the rural part of India where they're both from. And then they have to like live in Mumbai and just make money for their village because everybody like there's always one person from every village living in Mumbai trying to make money, trying to bring it back home, and it's just so rough living in Mumbai. I think like seeing that story told in such a delicate manner when I'm used to the Bollywood way of Indian storytelling,
Mm.
it feels very refreshing. Not that I dislike Bollywood storytelling. I think it's very entertaining, but I think it's refreshing to see such a small, like, earnest take on Indian culture. And I like that quite a bit.
Mm.
And I think if I had to pick one more honorable mention. Oh yeah, I should talk about Sing Sing. Sing Sing is also my honorable mention. It's my number 11.
No.
It just barely
Oh.
made it off the list. It is so sad. Coleman Domingo is breathtaking in this film. I think he's fantastic. Honestly, I think maybe he should win the Oscar. He might be when we do our Oscar pick. I'm leaning towards him. I think he is
Wow.
so fantastic in this film. It is so much more dynamic and heartbreaking than I thought it was going to be. Like his performance, I thought he was going to be a little more one note as sort of the lead of the theater department, being a mentor to all these other prisoners, but he brings so much more depth and dimension to it than I thought was going to be there. And that was such a welcome and like pleasuring surprise to see that his character is so fully faceted and then like flawed in such a beautiful way. and seeing him interact with all of those, like the real prisoners, and seeing them like dedicate everything they have to their own performances of just playing themselves. I mean, it's just it's gorgeous and it's heartbreaking and it's thoroughly entertaining. I loved it. It's a fantastic film, and I think everybody should go see Sing Sing if you can. Ryan, it's worth the $20.
I'll I'll
At that
reconsider.
point, you can just
I
buy
love
it.
Coleman Domingo. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, this is like
At that price, just
buying
wait for it to be on
price.
DVD and buy it.
So we will see. Because it's not even, that's the part that sucks. It's not even going to get put back in theaters because it didn't get nominated for Best Picture because they
Yeah,
bungled the whole release strategy in the campaign. So that's unfortunate.
yeah.
But I will catch it at some point, hopefully
Mhm.
before the Oscar ceremony, so I can support my man Coleman Domingo. But until then, it will be off my list and apparently off yours. So the top 10, Ruthless,
Mhm.
multiple 5-star films from earlier in the year are
Yep.
off the list. Some even off the honorable mentions.
It was a tough
Kind of
cut,
crazy.
but I think I'm very 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 satisfied with my top 10. I love all of these films, and I they are by far the films I found most entertaining and pleasurable to watch throughout the year. 100%. Like they are
Very
all, I think, very strong rewatches.
gotcha. Well, let's dive into these lists. We'll go through 10 through 6, and then hit our 5 through 3, find out our runner ups, and then name our number one films of the year. So, my number 10 is a film that I caught only because we delayed it. It is I'm Still Here,
Hey.
of course, with Fernanda Torres leading the way with her Oscar nominated performance here. It's a fantastic film, and it was very moving. The
Mhm.
way that they settle you into the family dynamic in the beginning
Oh, it's
is
fantastic.
just incredible. They're so like lively, and like all the kids have friends over all the time. The adults have friends over all the time. They're always doing something with each other. They're hitting up the beach that's right outside their door all the time. It's just like
Mhm.
this lovely, idyllic portrait of a family that is living under like the authoritarian regime in Brazil at that time in the 1970s. But like their family unit is so strong and the love between them is so strong that like it's just very enjoyable. And then it takes a shift when the father is taken away, and then the rest of the film is her having to make sense of this, deal with her also getting taken away, and then trying to just put the pieces back together and keep the family strong and moving forward. And
Mhm.
so, getting her performance at the heart of it is sensational, and again, just the contrast from the way we see the family in the very beginning to then moving into this much more tense, almost thriller like segment when these unnamed people show up at the house and want to start taking them in for questioning,
Mhm.
to later when it becomes more of that, you know, leaning more into the domestic drama again of her trying to hold the family together. I thought all those switches between those like subgenres were very well done, and the ending is just so impactful. There's like
Mhm.
3 endings, which I thought at first once we like kept gearing up for more endings, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna stick the landing, but it definitely does. It's probably one of the most brutal like title cards right before the end credits of like a true story that I can remember. And then when they're showing the pictures and everything, I was just like devastated. Had to
Mhm.
sit through the entire credits on that one, just pondering
Oh
it.
yeah.
That was a very lovely film. A complete contrast to that, instead of being very sad and emotionally moving, this was very fun and delightful. Hundreds of Beavers, which is a film that I guess first
Mhm.
debuted in 2022, but it didn't really get a full release until this year, 2024. Um, it's just fun. Like it's almost impossible to talk about this film without just like naming jokes you thought were funny. So I'm not really gonna go into it too much.
Mhm.
Again, it's just about a fur trapper that is trying to make money or get items by exchanging beavers, and so he has to hunt them down. And it's just full of the old school like silent era physical comedy and
Yeah.
Looney Tunes as well. So if you're a fan of any of that stuff, give it a watch. It's very charming. Made on like a very low budget, but that's part of the charm of it for sure. It is just very creative, very inventive, very delightful. My number 8. I know this will not be on your list,
Hmm.
but I do not care. It was entertaining. The style was slick. It was the Luca Guadagnino film that came out this year, earlier in the bunch. Challengers,
All
a
right.
film about three tennis players that don't really play tennis all that often. Instead, they're
No,
just
they just play each
shifting
other.
their desire and power dynamics with each other all throughout what, like 15 years the story is told over. Again, I rewatched it a couple weeks ago, and it was a blast. I was like, you know what? It is actually awesome. The structure, I'm
Hmm.
still a big fan of. The performances, I all think are rock solid. And then again, the style that Guadagnino puts into it, I just think is delightful. Like the tennis ball POV shot,
Crazy.
come on, that is awesome.
It's bold. It's
Shooting
bold
from
for sure.
underneath the court is
Shooting from underneath
awesome.
the court is awesome.
Even just stuff like the like that famous bedroom scene when she like makes them make out with each other, and then
Hmm.
the camera peeks over their heads to look down as Zendaya. She's like looking up at it, all satisfied. Like that's incredible. Like that was, I don't know exactly how long it was, but that had to be a 3 or 4 minute shot from when they like got on the bed to them start making out and everything to her peeling back and just like watching what she
Hmm.
did. Just great stuff all around. So I thought that was great, and of course, a bumpin' score that had such delightfully silly needle drop moments. Like it
It is a
was
great score.
every time it came in, it was just hilarious. So I thought Challengers was fantastic.
Hmm.
My number 7 is a film that I would bet a kidney is higher on your list. It's definitely on your list, and I bet it's close to the top. Anora. So we will circle back to that in a little bit whenever you name drop it.
Hmm.
My number 6, which I thought would have been on your list, but it is not. Conclave. That's crazy to me.
Yeah,
I
that's
again, I
high on
was
your list too.
less, enthusiastic about it just based on our like scores that we gave. But
Mm.
the more that I thought about it, again, I just love like this approach to it. Again, it could have been a very
Yeah.
stuffy chamber drama,
I think it's a film
but
that's definitely more geared to you. I think
yeah,
the thing that I found most captivating about it was the thriller aspect to it, but I think the entire politicking of it is more Ryan coded for sure.
it is. Again, I love the thriller aspect because I
Hmm.
do love thrillers, and the political part of it as well, of just like the dominoes getting knocked down one by one of all these like potential candidates, and then we unearth whatever dirt is on them, and then they fall away. I thought all that was great. Again, the cast is incredible, and I think there were moments of writing that shines. Like I love his speech at the beginning, Lawrence by Ray Fiennes, his speech about doubt, and like we need to try and select a pope that has doubt, because if there's no doubt, there's no mystery, and then there's no
Hmm.
faith. So I thought that was like a beautiful little touch of writing in there. The cinematography as well. I
It's
think we both
fantastic. Yeah,
praised
absolutely.
the like the auditorium in particular. Like that just set up was lovely, but throughout there were amazing shots. And then this is a moment that I'll probably talk about when we do our like bonus awards. But one of the like best moments of that film was when they were about to do the final vote, and it was after the explosion had happened, and so the windows open and they can just hear the breeze enter the Vatican wherever they were at exactly, and the birds chirping outside, and everyone just had like this moment of peace and calm and quiet settle over them. I thought it was one of the best ways that like spirituality is rendered on film. So just these like flashes of excellence throughout the film.
Hmm.
Thinking back on them since I had seen it, I was like, I think this definitely needs to remain high
Sure.
up on the list.
Hmm.
Um, and then also another thing is because we do this a lot where like we'll just say the names of the actors rather than the character names because it's just easier, and obviously we're more familiar with the actors.
Hmm.
But like I still like Tedesco, still know
Tedesco.
him, Benitez, Lawrence, Stanley Tucci was Aldo. Like the fact that I know all these character names
Yeah,
still means that like it had an impact.
Tedesco's a good name, good character name.
It is a great name.
Fits his character really well.
It does. But yeah, so even despite the fact that especially at the time I saw it, I just felt like the more optimistic ending they went with was not so realistic. Um, I think it was a great film overall, and very like just fun, delightful. Again, the thriller aspect had a good pace to it. Um, it was exciting when again, when you're pitching the idea of like selecting a pope, it could have just been very eye rolling. So I love the direction they went with it.
Mhm.
So your top 10. I'm excited to see what we're gonna have here in this first
Yeah.
batch.
So number 10 is going to be Chicken for Linda. It is a French animated film that you can find
Okay.
on the Criterion channel. It is an hour and 15 minutes, so it's pretty short. But it is just so delightful. It is so simple. It's basically a woman over punishes her child, like wrongly punishes her, and feels horrible for it, and needs to make up to her, like for punishing her so badly. And all her daughter wants is like chicken for dinner, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's just her quest of trying to find a way to make a chicken meal, even though she doesn't cook very well. And I just think the hijinks they get up to in it is very much like it's an animated film. It's very silly. I think it's all just written so beautifully well. I think it's so cheesy and fun and entertaining. I think the animation is quite delightful. If it has a weak spot, it's a musical, and so some of the songs aren't 100% there. But I think partially I don't speak French, so it's not as entertaining as say like an American musical or an English musical. But still, I think it's just so delightful. It's so much fun to watch. I love all of the characters. I love falling in love with the characters, and I love the depth they bring to such a simple story with these little animated characters, and like the community aspect they give to that little neighborhood where it all takes place. I think it's all fantastic, and the
Nice.
culmination of like all the little subplots coming together at the end is very very fun. So I think if you have like an hour to kill, like an hour and change to kill, this is a great little movie to watch. I think it's so delightful and so much fun. There's a couple of movies on here that are just delightful and just purely entertaining because of that.
Nice.
Number 9 is I'm Still Here. I
All
also got
right.
to see it this past week, and you're right. It's a breathtakingly fantastic film. I was iffy on it at first, thinking about it because parts of it felt a little. I don't want to say Oscar baity, but kind of Oscar baited. There's like moments where the characters are obviously doing like a mic drop moment, which feel a little cheesy, but I think the audacity, like the dedication to showing, to spending so much time, the first hour of the film just to like learning the family and becoming one of the family. The audacity to do that is so breathtakingly fantastic. It like sells the rest of the film so well, and they do like Walter Salas does such a fantastic job of making you fall in love with every individual in that family as individuals and as a unit. And I think the production aspect of it is obviously like breathtaking, how wonderful they make it feel like Brazil in the 70s, and how like I don't know, it's just it is fantastic. Everything you said is true. Like everything, all the tone shifts are really really well done. I just I find it very very entertaining, very very moving. The ending is of course fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
and I just loved it. Very, very powerful filmmaking. Definitely sat through those end credits as well. Number 8 is a Chinese film called The Shadowless Tower, which you can
Interesting.
also find on the Criterion channel. It is about a man who is in his middle ages, in his 40s, and he's having a bit of a midlife crisis, except it's not like the American midlife crisis where you, like American Beauty, quit your job, buy a fancy car, and do something stupid with your life. It's
Right.
this very solemn midlife crisis of I think it's a guy who just wishes his life had been different, and he just starts to be a little more solemn, spend time with friends, feel sad about his life. It's a very slice of life kind of thing. He's a food reviewer in China, and he has a younger counterpart who takes pictures for him. And so they review food, and she takes pictures, and they just go about their day in China and just walk around. I think it's one of the best shot movies of. I guess it came out in 2023 technically, but in America in 2024, I think it's one of the best shot films of the year. I think I just fell in love with watching the characters walk around, the peace that they had with their existence and with their surroundings, even though they were not content with their lives. I would say was heartwarming. And as an individual who is going through a bit of a quarter life crisis of a
Oh
similar
no.
magnitude, in the sense that I'm not like doing anything crazy with my life. I'm just sort of existing and like pondering my existence. I think watching a movie where a character is similarly pondering his like meaning and purpose is also very impactful. He's also one of he has like a couple subplots, but one of the main subplots is that his father, who's he's been estranged from for 40 years, kind of returns, and he
Mhm.
has to reconnect with him and like forgive him for a wrongdoing in the past that he learns more about as the film goes on. And I think watching a movie about reconciliation is always going to be something powerful for me. Like a movie where you look back upon your past and see it with a new light, I think is always impactful, especially in a way that is so peaceful and subdued, where there are no scenes where they're screaming at each other. There are no scenes where he's like angry at his father. He's simply existing and like pondering about his past and thinking about his perspective on everything and like trying to come forward to his father in a very straightforward and mature way, which I think is nice. So I just think it was just slice of life and entertaining. I don't think anybody else would like it. I think I'm the only guy that would find this movie because
What's
it's
the
like two
title
hours and
again?
20 minutes long.
What's it
It's
called?
very long. It's called The Shadowless Tower. It's very
Shadowless.
long. You can watch it on the Criterion channel. Very long. Very very slow. I don't know anyone else that might like it. I think you might like it, but I loved it. I thought it was very entertaining.
All right.
My number 7, Small Things Like These.
Okay. Killian Murphy, right?
Yep. Killian Murphy is a guy who is distributing coal, selling coal in Ireland in the 80s when they needed coal to heat their houses. They still probably do. And he is slowly uncovering secrets about a school for girls, like an orphanage type beat of school for troubled girls, similarly to Nickel Boys almost, but from the
Mhm.
outside perspective of like uncovering abuse at the school very slowly. And the whole movie is basically him questioning his morality about whether he should say something or not. And I think it's very short. It's only an hour and a half. It's based on like a novella that's 100 pages long. Very, very short story. And I think watching something so like focused on one character told in such a very strong way about his own morality and his own willingness to speak up and whether or not like he should take heed of the consequences of doing so, I think is very impactful. It's just a lot of him questioning. Fantastic performance from Cillian Murphy. I think he should have been nominated at the Oscars, but the movie didn't get enough attention, and he just won one. So, but I think personally, maybe not better than Oppenheimer, but at least it's good. It's a fantastic performance. It's very like quiet and calm and simple.
Hmm.
And I also just found it entertaining to watch his character because he's just such a simple man who is just like trying to. He has like 4 daughters. He's just trying to provide for his family. He goes in and he just does his job every day. And he comes home and he just washes the coal off of his hands, the black charcoal off of his hands. And he sits down and he just listens to his kids talk about their day. And he watches TV for a little bit. And he goes, he just lives such a simple existence. And he's so content with it. And so to see him like so shaken up by the events that are happening at that school and to see how that affects his like daily routine when he has daughters of his own and like thinking about that weighing that against like these girls who are strangers to him.
Hmm.
I just think it's told very powerfully, and I think it leaves like a very strong impact. And also, it's just nice to see stories about families in Ireland. I think I've always been partial to families in Ireland with my own with relatives in Ireland myself, and with
Mhm.
Irish traditions and my own like celebrations. I think it's nice to see that on screen and to see like just the small family dynamic of these people in these cottages just trying to exist and find their happiness. That's why I liked
You're Banshees of
Banshees
Inisherin.
of Inisherin so much.
You're yearning for the motherland,
I
is what it
am
sounds
I
like.
am yearning for the Irish. And then my number 6, which is a movie we talked about recently, you can go back and listen to our episode on it. I won't talk about it too much. Nickel Boys.
Okay.
Fantastic start to finish. Please go listen to our episode about it. I can't possibly talk about it enough. It is again a great choice to make it first person perspective. Very very bold. Puts me in their shoes completely. Absolutely harrowing. Shocks me to my core. Hurts me. Beats me down. Makes me so sad, so emotional. I cried in the theater. Please go see Nickel Boys. Please listen to our episode on it. I won't say anything more, but it is fantastic.
All right, there we go. So now moving on to our 5 through 3. My number 5 is a film called Red Rooms.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of this?
I think I've seen it briefly, but I don't know it.
It is about this woman named Kellyanne who is obsessed with this murder case that's going on of some guy that did these brutal murders and filmed them and put them on live streams, which I guess they're
Oh, I
red
do know
room.
this. I have heard of this.
Yeah, and so people are able to pay to watch these live streams of like these little girls basically getting mutilated and killed. And so this protagonist of ours is obsessed with this case, and this is like a very fascinating film because we don't really get that attached to this main character at all. Like it's more of us just trying to analyze like what is going on in her head, like why is she attracted to this, why is she interested in this, what is going on with her. And it's very hard to get those answers, but I think it's like a fantastic performance by our main character. And then I think the filmmaking also helps it out a lot. Like there's a lot of these long voyeuristic takes of just her going about her day and her being in her apartment and being very isolated from the rest of the world. Like she's kind of terminally online and doesn't really like do much with her life outside of this case at this specific moment. So she is definitely a very compelling and odd sort of protagonist. But we just follow the journey of her connecting with this other groupie, basically, for the serial killer. And then we just watch that unfold as they try and make it into the courtroom every single day to see the new facts about the case get presented. And the last like 20 minutes of this film, I said in my like review that I'm going to put on Letterboxd that my eyebrow muscles hurt from having a perpetual frown. Like I was just very concerned throughout the final 20 minutes, and I was just like, what is going on? Like trying to decipher what is happening. And I don't know the last time that like a film has had a sustained reaction like that from me
physically
so
hurt
long.
your face muscles.
Yes, like literally, I'm just like, oh god, I need to like rest my eyebrows because it was crazy. There was I was reading because I wrote a screenplay towards like the end of 2024, as you know, and so I always like to dabble in my screenwriting books when I go to do that. And there was something in there he had wrote about happiness, Todd Solondz's happiness, in that moment where the dad is trying to drug the kids so that he can take advantage of the 11-year-old or whatever. And so the writer of that book was saying like, oh, you don't have to necessarily like the characters, but you need to root for them. And he used that as an example of rooting for the character to pull that off, to like drug the kid, because again, we're on the main character side. And so that's what happens. I don't agree with that. I do think in that particular moment where we're like watching that unfold, we want to see how far it goes. Like how long are they going to run the bit? Like how far is the filmmaker going to push this scenario? This film, Red Rooms, does that superbly. Yeah. Because there's like this high stakes poker game. How long
can they stay on the wire?
Auction that is like going on. And again, what she's like after is atrocious. It's terrible. And you would never like in real life want anyone to actually like be able to achieve that. But in this film, you're glued to whether or not like will she be able to achieve it and what will happen after that. And then will the filmmakers like go to that point of like her being able to achieve this. So I think it's, again, a very unsettling film, but extremely mesmerizing. So definitely worth a watch. Again, there's like hard moments. Nothing's ever shown, obviously.
Of course.
But there's definitely moments where you're like hearing some of the things that happened in the case, which is terrible. And then there's, again, just some of the filmmaking techniques that they do there, I think is wonderful. Like there's a moment where she's watching and listening to something play out and the frame distorts and the pixels start like smearing and everything. And then again, just like jaw dropping moments towards the end of the film that you should watch it for
You're
sure.
selling
And
me
I
on
would
it.
hear
Yeah,
your take.
I think I'm gonna check it out.
Um,
Where can
it's
I stream that?
very impactful. I just did it on Prime. I
Okay,
think
just
I
rented
just
it.
rented it for a few
Okay.
bucks. My number four is Nickel Boys,
Heyo,
and so
good
yeah,
pick.
we just did an episode on that not too long ago. So I would go listen to that again. Just in general, the approach that they did, making the entire film in POV, first person POV, is such a bold swing. Could have gone
Hmm.
wrong a million different ways, but not only did they succeed in it, they were able to leverage that choice into making very impactful like narrative statements. Again, that like shift towards the end of the film is so brilliant,
Hmm.
truly incredible. And then just the way that again you're put in the perspective of these main characters, the things that they focus on. Again, we talked about all those little like inserts here and there, gorgeous cinematography to go along with that. But again, just the way it roots you in subjectivity of these characters in a way that few other films really can.
Hmm.
Magnificent. So definitely worth a watch. My number three is Dee Dee, a coming of
Oh,
age film
I had a feeling you would like this one. Yeah,
from Sean Wang. Yeah, again, I'm a sucker for coming of age
yeah, you
stuff,
are.
and this one I just loved. Again, it follows the like tropes, the template pretty closely, but again, it's all about how you're able to infuse it with originality from your own experiences, and so a lot of this comes from Sean Wang's own life. This is probably the first coming of age film we've had in Hollywood, like mainstream Hollywood, that focuses on like the late 2000s as like the
Hmm.
time period the kid is growing up in. So
Our
we get all
time.
these things about, MySpace and early text messaging and things like that,
Hmm.
and YouTube becoming like a very important part of just growing up. So I think the way he's able to infuse all of that was fantastic. It's also just got so much heart, so much
Hmm.
like love and compassion, without shying away from making the main character like unlikable, but in a realistic way. Like you're always with him, but there's a lot of times where you're like, dude, just calm down, like chill out, like stop being so rude and mean to all these people around you. Stop lying all the time just to try and fit in. But again, you understand like why he's doing that, where he's coming from there. I think there's a lot of very creative flourishes that are put in there, just like these bursts of creativity. Like have you seen it? Did you see it?
I watched DD. Yeah,
Yeah, the deceased squirrel being Spike Jones
that's crazy.
was like just absurd. Again, there's like the fish talking later on as well, stuff like
Hmm.
that. So just fun little splashes of creativity there, but it never outshines these like quieter moments. The heart to hearts that he has with the mom at certain times,
Hmm.
some of the stuff with Nine Eye as well, which is very touching. And then the stuff with like the sister as well. Like there's a
I think that
motion
was very
picture with a
touching for me.
hoodie.
Yeah,
Like multiple times they use this hoodie to like represent something, and it got
yeah.
me every time. I was like, God dang it! Like it's
I
so
think
good.
the tumultuous relationship between the siblings turning into like a mutual respect turning into just actual sibling love. I think
Mhm.
like the protectiveness of the older sister in times of like tension. I think all of that was very very well done. I think that was the higher point of the film was his relationship with her and his relationship with his mother. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
it's done
I thought those
incredibly
were
well.
great, but I thought all the kid actors were like really, really good.
They
Like
were,
none
yeah.
of them were bad, I don't think. Um, and so yeah, I just thought it was a great representation of like that time period. Obviously, these characters were older than us, but there were still things that we could obviously relate to.
Close to it,
Um,
close to our age,
yeah, very, very close.
close to our
And
era.
so I just really enjoyed it. And again, the whole like mother son relationship and how they go through that. I mean, that's like, the bedrock of the whole film,
Mhm.
which is the main kid, Chris Wang, having like all this shame and looking at other places for approval. And his mom is right there, like trying to, give him the love and attention that he just doesn't want from her specifically. And so they have to like come to terms. Basically, I've seen it in other places of like, it's a film about learning to love your mom. I think it's
Mhm.
just like a beautiful message. So,
Yeah,
uh, Dee Dee, definitely one of my favorites of the year. Go and watch it.
yeah. My number 5 through 3. Number 5, The Girl with the Needle, the Dutch film.
Mm,
I was able to get Mubi and watch it last week. I didn't know what it was going to be kind of going into. I knew it took place in Copenhagen in 1919. So immediately following World War One, I knew that it was about a woman who uh, works for like an adoption agency at that time period after she gives birth herself. And so I was not really knowing what to expect going. I thought it was going to be kind of like a slow period piece, and it turned out to be like a Lynchian horror film,
Oh
like
my.
on par with Eraser. Like I would say that if Eraserhead is like a horror film about the horrors of being a father, The Girl with the Needle is like a horror film of the same par about being a mother. It is like a very good companion piece to Eraserhead. It feels like a combination of that and like the more terrifying elements of the Elephant Man. So it just captivated me entirely. I thought it was such a creative way to tell the story. I think it definitely shocks so much more than I thought it was going to. It is there's like a crazy twist towards the end that like the way they go about, like I could see it kind of coming for sure, but the way they
Mhm.
go about revealing it, like similar to what you were saying about Red Rooms, just jaw dropped. Like I was just
Wow.
so shocked that they like went that way and showed it that way, and like the implications that that reveal has on like the story that you've seen so far just changes everything. I think it was filmed incredibly well. I think the production design, everything to make Copenhagen or to make wherever they're filming look like Copenhagen in 1919 is fantastically done. I think the characters are all very entertaining. I just thought it was such a bold film in the style. Like you know me, at times I love bold stylism, and this film definitely leans into a very specific David Lynch kind of style. And I
Mhm.
just ate it up. I ate that shit up. I loved it.
Do you still have Mubi
I
so I
do.
can pull a copy
I
of it
paid a
and get
dollar
that?
for 3 months.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's a great deal.
can you believe that shit? Yeah, they are desperate for people to, to pay for Mubi. Which is why I'm really sad I didn't get to see Bird because Bird is also on Mubi. I got it to watch The Girl with the Needle and Bird, and I only got around to The Girl with the Needle. But
Dang.
good choice. Holy shit, it's awesome. I loved it. I don't know if you'll like it as much as I did, but it is just so bold. I love it so much.
I'll give it a try.
Mm.
My curiosity is piqued.
Number 4 is How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies.
Wow.
Broke my heart, dude. It is very much uh it was hard for me to put this at number 3 kind of. I felt like it belonged a lot lower just because it definitely feels like a very simple story in the same way that I feel about DD is very much like I've seen this before. I've seen a lot of these tropes before. I've seen this story before. They're they're like hitting the exact emotional notes that you're supposed to hit, like a almost like a script, in order to give me an emotional reaction. It doesn't feel very original, other than the fact that like I've never seen a movie take place in this location before in Singapore, I think, right?
I know it was Thailand.
Thailand, yeah, in Thailand, where like that's the only thing like quite new about it. Like I understand this sort of story about trying to connect with a loved one before they pass, but something about it. I mean, he's just doing Pat Bunit. Ugh, I'm gonna butcher his name. Let me look it up.
Look, yeah.
Pat Bunitapat. uh, Kills it. It's just fantastic. I mean, he's hitting those notes and then he's hitting them harder and then he's hitting them even harder. So even though you know where it's kind of going, it just it beats you down emotionally. I cried at least 3 times. Just brought me to just pure tears. I absolutely adored it. I mean, it is just such a beautiful emotional ride. Watching him connect with his grandma and like I think the thing that gets me is like the whole time he's trying to scheme to get his grandma's house because he wants money, and so he's trying to be like the dutiful grandson in order to be the one person that gets put in the will.
Hmm.
And even though we see him like go through the expected change of like, oh, he's spending so much time with the grandma, obviously he's just gonna like realize that he loves his grandma and that money doesn't matter. It like even though we see him go through those changes, it takes him a little bit longer to get to that final conclusion than I think like a normal movie would. I think like given the effort they put into making him go through that change, I think he would have like solidly hit that part by like the 2/3 mark. but it really takes towards like the last like 5 minutes of the movie for him to solidly accept that that is the truth
Hmm.
and to like make that realization that money is not the most important thing. And I think it's because he's connecting. He spends so much time connecting the money to love, and so it's not that he thinks it's not that he only wants the money towards the end of the movie. It's that he's connecting money with love so toughly in his brain that it takes all the way to the end of the movie for him to disconnect those two and realize that money and love are completely different things,
Hmm.
and to finally accept that. And I think I like that sort of step that they take. But yeah, beautiful. Cried so much. If I would absolutely watch the movie again in a heartbeat, I would recommend it to all of my friends. Everybody would love this movie. There's not a single person I know that wouldn't. It's just so delicate and beautiful.
All right.
That is my first 5 out of 5 film. Is How to Make Millions Before Grandma
Oh,
Dies.
we're back. Well, I
Those are
thought
the
your
top
top
four. My
four
top
was
four are
one.
all 5 out of 5s.
Yeah.
My number three film, another 5 out of 5. Hundreds of Beavers.
I knew you'd
Dude,
love it.
it is beyond flawless. It is one of the greatest comedies of the last 10 years. It is outstandingly funny. I think the way they combine Charlie Chaplin esque sort of slapstick humor with like video game stylings of like goal completion,
Hmm.
where he's just trying to get to the next goal and unlock the next like tool to achieve the next goal. And then he
Hmm.
has like his little mini map that he's adding to. Everything about it is just so entertaining and fantastic. I mean, we could spend all day just going over the bits we love.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a hard movie to talk about because of that reason. You literally just need to go watch
You
it.
just
Like
need to go
it's
watch it. It's
a quick
so
watch and
funny.
it's
It's worth the
delightful.
rent. If I find a way to like buy a hard copy of it, I'm going to because I want to have a hard. It's just so delightful and fun. Please go see it. It's the funniest movie of last year. It's one of the funniest movies of the last 10 years. It is an incredible feat of
Hmm.
comedy.
For sure.
What is your number two? What's your runner up?
All right. My runner up is A Real Pain.
Oh wow! I knew this was gonna hit you hard.
Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. Again, as well documented on our Succession episode. I love Kieran Culkin.
Yeah, you do.
And him as Roman Roy is very similar to him as this character. Like there
This is true.
are differences there, but he's on the same wavelength. And I think it's great that Jesse Eisenberg is in this too because he also has that same sort of charm, like the Weasley little charm that Kieran Culkin has. And so pairing them together as cousins is like a genius move, which I think Eisenberg himself did. And this is just a film that I think allows Culkin to shine. Like me as an audience member, I'm right there with everyone else in that group who is at once like delighted by him whenever he's like being charming and like funny and everything, but then also being very off put and annoyed whenever he is going like through it and then just lashing out at people. Like they do such a great job balancing those two
Mm,
things of him being able to like brighten people's days and then immediately rain on it, which is sort of a line that they have later on. There's that great scene in the diner when Culkin leaves and then Jesse Eisenberg like unloads like trauma dumps onto the whole group of like how he both loves and hates Culkin's character,
mhm.
um,
It's a great
because
scene.
again he's like awesome and cool and like you want to be around him, but he's also infuriating and like just that whole mix of emotions that he could have towards that person. And again, it's like we felt that throughout. Like we are charmed by Culkin, and we're also annoyed by him when he's no longer in that like upbeat mode. So I just thought it was like beautifully done. Again, like a relatively like simple and straightforward movie, but very funny. Again, Culkin's like always hilarious. But a lot of the banter that they have, I think, is great. Very touching as well. Like this the cousin dynamic of the two of them, like trying to understand each other, and they're going through like this trauma as well. I think it's their grandma that died, and
Mm,
so seeing them trying to process that as they're going on this like Holocaust memorial trip through Poland. Like, I just think it's so well put together, so earnest, and it's a great showcase for the both of them. I think they both give incredible performances.
absolutely, yeah.
And Culkin is really a lead here, but
Mhm.
I mean, if they're putting him in the supporting category, then it's like obvious that he is going to win and should win. Like I was amazed by the performance. Again, he's just so incredible. So A Real Pain. It wasn't one that I thought was going to be like at the top of the list
Mhm.
when I saw it. I saw it a few months ago, and I was like, okay, as I see other things, it'll drop down, but it'll be on the top 10. This thing stayed. Like
Yeah.
as I sat on it more, I just kept coming back to it and
Mhm.
being really moved by the whole thing. So
Yeah.
my number two, my runner up, A Real Pain.
That's how I feel about my number two. I also thought after seeing it, I was like, I loved it, but I think given the slate that is coming up with the Brutalist and all these foreign films, I thought it was going to get knocked down more, but it stayed. It stayed strong, and it didn't never move. It never moved, never once. I've seen it twice now, both times in theaters. It is Memoir of a Snail,
Oh snap!
one you missed.
This is the one I missed.
You
Indeed,
son of a bitch.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god, dude! It is just. It's one of the most bizarre stories ever told. It's almost entirely told as a flashback with narration because, I mean, it's claymation and it's cheaper to do narration than to animate the mouths actually speaking words. So most of it is just like a narrated flashback of this woman retelling her life. It's a memoir, of course, and it is just miserably sad. It is a woman retelling her life story, and it is like the saddest fucking thing. Like she had the worst life you could ever possibly imagine a person to have, and it just breaks my heart to watch it. And uh, similarly to BoJack, where it's like just watching these characters have the most miserable existence ever, and just hating life, and seeing them run amok and like get hit by a rock and a hard place over and over and over, and then still seeing them come out and find like the positive light of it all. I think is something that always gets me emotional because I mean I have not had the easiest go of it as of late, and so feeling myself hit that rock after rock after rock, and still trying to find that positive light is very very difficult. And so watching this movie, which does end on a somewhat positive note, was definitely emotional and impactful. And both times that I saw this movie, I cried 4 times in the theater. So I've cried a total of eight
At the
times for this
same
movie.
parts each time, or
Same
did
parts
the
each
parts
time.
get you on the
The
second
second
one?
time, I knew what was coming, and I still cried each time. It just it hurts. It hurts watching a character that is just so kind and so like normal in life just get dogged on and just get destroyed. It's just so hard to watch that. And that is what this movie is. Is like they give you these characters that are just nice, normal people who are just trying to live their best life, and they just have the worst shit luck you'd ever see in any character ever. They just get beat down. It's like Jesse Pinkman. It just gets beat down and beat down and beat down, and just didn't do anything. Didn't do anything wrong. Just wanted to exist and be happy, and life just wouldn't let them have that happiness. And that hurts. It just hurts so much to watch, and to find positiveness in that is so uplifting to me. Even though I think so many people would walk away from this movie and be like, "What a sad movie! What a sad film." I think it is a happy film. I think it is uplifting by the end, and I think that is what sells it for me. Because there's so many people who would make a movie like this and they just end it on such a Debbie Downer,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm I'm always in awe of people who can make me feel so horribly sad, but then still end on a happy note. That's why I love BoJack so much. That's why I love this so much. It is just fantastic, and also funny. It's just uproariously funny at times. It's an adult claymation film. It's very much adult. They make adult jokes, and it's funny shit.
All right. So, A Memoir of a Snail as your number two. We are now to our top films of the year.
I know what your top
Number
film is
one for
gonna
each of
be. You
us.
know
We
what my
know,
top film is gonna be.
I think we do. But before we reveal, again, I just want to say with my number one, I had been looking for my 5-star film all throughout this year, and I haven't yet gotten there, I don't think.
That's so
But
sad.
I think on further rewatches, this one might be able to get up there because it is just a big, bold swing from a director doing what directors are supposed to do, which is create a world and immerse you into it, make you care and make you believe in what's going on around you, and using the full capacity of our audiovisual medium to grip you with a story and make you feel something, make you feel alive. And that is why my number one film of the year is Emilia Perez. No, I'm kidding.
No, I was really hoping you'd say Megalopolis.
No, that was going to be my second bit. Was I was going to say no, I would never do that. But a true auteur that is able to come back from all this stuff and create a masterpiece, a misunderstood masterpiece that gets dogged on by everyone else. That was going to be my bit into Megalopolis, because a lot of you mofo's hate this film. People be clowning on it, but it's a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's also not Megalopolis. It is, no surprise here, Dune Part 2.
I knew you. I
Denis
knew it.
Villeneuve.
As soon as I saw the movie when it came out, I was like, "This is gonna be Ryan's favorite movie of the year."
It was just spiritual. Again, out of body experience watching this in theaters twice. Once, not in IMAX, it was like a Cinemark in Cleveland, Ohio, when I was up there. Saw that on this massive screen. It was beautiful. Came back, saw it on IMAX. It was also beautiful. Again, it is not a perfect film, which is why I don't have that as a 5-star. But even on further rewatches, like those problems I have with it will not necessarily go away. Like, and there's certain things I would have done differently, certain issues with the film that I think are just going to remain. But I think they're going to be continually overshadowed by just how impactful this world is. Like what he was able to do to create Dune, Arrakis, render out the Bene Gesserit, the Fremen, like this transformation that Lady Jessica, first of all, goes on, because Rachel Ferguson's going crazy in this film, which is fantastic. But also Timothée Chalamet, who, again, unbeknownst to me, is being maligned for his performance. People saying it's not
like
good,
him.
not believable. It's
I
not.
like him in it.
I think he's great in it. In that scene when he's claiming to be the Lisa Nagaib, he's fully taking on that mantle, despite the fact that it's going to hurt Chani and it's going to lead to this terrible future of the holy war, the jihad. He goes for it, and he's going all in. And again, the like lump in my throat, I'm sure I was frowning there too. Like I was locked in as much as you possibly could be when I saw that in theaters for the very first time. It's just sensational. So again, it's just like that ability to transport you into another world that we love in films like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Like Dune is undoubtedly going to be that thing. Like people years from now are going to be like, I wanted to make movies because I saw Dune, and I was fully enraptured by the world that was created by Villeneuve and the whole team. Greg Fraser, of course, on cinematography. Like it's just astounding stuff. And so I was open. I was open to a film knocking down Dune Part 2, but no one was able to do it. It reigned supreme. It is just fantastic. I will never understand why so many people I can do Part 1. I was the defender there.
You
and
were.
I was thinking that the next one would be incredible. And it was. More people were like, oh,
right.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, the second
But
one's
they're not
better.
giving it the love that they should.
Sorry,
Dune
man.
Part 2 is magnificent.
It was close to my top 10. It was 15.
Should have been
close.
higher.
Sorry,
Should've
man.
been higher.
I
All I
love
gotta
Kinds of
say.
Kindness. I'm sorry, dude.
But Dune Part 2, my beloved, I will always believe, as written, Lisa Nagaib. Agilud will show us the way. All that jazz. And Dune Messiah, I will be there, and I will be defending once again.
I'll be there too. I'll check
When
it
the
out.
naysayers start coming out, I will be defending.
Yep.
But yeah, Dune Part 2 takes the crown for 2024 for me.
For me, no surprise. I touted this when it came out. I've seen it twice now. I will see it again. I will see it again. I will see it again. Sean Baker's Honora is my number one. It is a perfect film. It is just so entertaining. It is so surprising as to what I thought it was going to be. I really was expecting like an Uncut Gem style intense thriller of these characters just screaming at each other, which they are screaming at each other the entire time. It is filmed in a similar way, but it is so dedicating to be such a funny film about like just real people in this real crazy situation that I fell in love with it. Like there is no outlandishness to it. There's an outlandishness into the scenario, but the characters are just so real and so grounded and so believable that it is just flawless to me and perfect. I love the portrayals of the characters. I think Yura Borisov deserves an Oscar. I think Mikey Madison deserves an Oscar. I think Mark Eidelstein deserves an Oscar. I think they're all just so fantastic. And Sean Baker, the crowning champ to bring it all together, deserves every Oscar he's been nominated for. I mean, all four of them. Give them to him. Honora is Beautiful. It's incredible. I can't really say much more than that. I've beaten this to death. Absolutely. I will die on the Honora Hill 100%. If you want to know more about my thoughts, please go listen to our Honora episode. I praised
Yeah,
it so much. I praised it. I glazed it. I I fought with you for like 30 minutes in that episode, defending such
it's
tiny little
true.
picky points.
I don't know that they were
To
tiny picky points, but my thoughts there are unchanged because I haven't been able to see it again.
still made your
But
top 10.
again, my praise in there, I was pretty like enthusiastic with my praise of what I thought the film got right. And again, Baker, I've been touting since Florida Project, and in our episode on that as well. I just think he's so unique as a director right
It's
now, and being
incredible.
able to create performances that are just so realistic, so
Mhm.
lifelike, that really gets you to care about these characters. Again, what he does with Yuri Borisov's character throughout this film, like to start him out as like a complete side character
A
that you think is
goon.
just going to be like a gag character.
He's just a
Um,
goon, man. He's just there to do the heavy
yeah,
lifting.
just a henchman, and then slowly again you're able to
So
see like
much
these little
depth.
shots that linger on him more than those other henchmen and certain singles that he's given, and just being able to build up like that character in the
He
background.
gets little cute moments like throwing the bat and like go like running up to his grandma's house. The little
Hmm.
fight he has with Mikey Madison in the beginning of the movie, the beginning of his introduction. Ah, God, everything about him is just so incredibly written,
Yeah.
incredibly